Hello, welcome to the Perception Podcast. I am your host, Thomas Casey Zellers, and today we are hopefully going to change your perception on things that you thought you already knew. Tell me, how did you first get into dance?
I was never a dancer. I never had aspirations to be a dancer, yet it was all around me. It taught me that I am somebody who is a little unique. I don't see things the way that normal people see them. We compete against other studios as well. And I'm competing against every professional that's there. So I would say that it probably has given me a deeper understanding of different thought processes, different ways of life. I was sitting on the couch and I said to my mom, I was like, I don't know what to do with this check. And she said, invest in yourself and open a studio. So I did.
Hello, welcome to the Perception Podcast. I am your host, Thomas Casey Zellers, and today we are hopefully going to change your perception on things that you thought you already knew. Today's guest in studio with me today is Darren Lee Cupp. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great.
I'm glad to have you on the show today. So today's topic is dance, and you are a dancer.
I am.
So I want to start with, just kind of break the ice a little bit and kind of let the audience know who you are, and let's get to know you a little bit here.
So my name is Darren Lee Cupp. I'm a dancer, and choreographer, an actor, a singer, name it. I have done pretty much all of it. Mm-hmm. And I own a studio in Carmel currently that focuses pretty much on competition and performance.
A competition.
But I have some social students as well.
Okay. So competition, dance, and personal, or what was the other one?
Ballroom competitions.
Okay.
So I have students that compete. And then, so that's like an event that we do on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. And then performance and shows. We do live shows as well.
Okay. So what I guess is like the big difference between performance and...
Well, social dancers just want to be able to dance socially. If they go to a club or they go to a wedding or wherever there's a dance floor, they just want to be able to dance together. They have no desire to perform or be in front of an audience. Mm-hmm. But then there are performance students, and they are going to be more driven and more focused by the aspect of being able to perform in a show. Mm-hmm. And then there are competition students that train specifically for dance competitions, and they go and compete against other people.
Okay. And I take it you've done both realms, both competition and performance.
I'm actively doing all of them all times, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What would you say is probably your craziest performance that you've had socially with friends, like at weddings or just...
Craziest. I don't know how to define it in that way. We do like live shows, think like live Dancing with the Stars episodes.
Okay.
So it's that type of performance, that type of show. I've had some pretty outrageous ones and some silly ones that I've had to do. Like I did Hairspray, and I dressed as Edna. So there have definitely been some comical moments in performances, and then it just depends on that specific performance. Are you trying to do something funny or silly? Or are you trying to do something romantic or something powerful or something formal? There's so many different aspects to how a performance can take shape.
Like, what are you trying to convey?
Yeah, the show we do at my studio every year is called a Hollywood Showcase, and the reason for that is because all of the routines are geared and built around television shows and movies.
Oh, okay.
So there'll be either a song that is from a movie, we'll do something physical that tells the story, and then we'll have a different song that, like, as an example, I had a student that did a performance that was based around Nightmare on Elm Street, and the song was Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics. So the song had nothing to do with the movie, but it kind of goes with
Kind of trigger, yeah.
Right. So we kind of put those kind of things together. So there are a lot of different types of performances in that one show. Lots of different types of movies and TV shows get represented.
Gotcha. Does it bother you to see ballroom dancing in film and see it? Like, do you sit there kind of critiquing it, like, oh, they're not doing that right, or?
Sometimes I'll see I know that usually what I'm seeing is very basic. But I know that because I know the syllabus, I know the step patterns, I know what they're supposed to be doing or what level what they're doing will fall under. And they usually keep it pretty basic. I don't really watch a lot of ballroom dancing stuff unless it's research. So I will watch episodes of, I actually prefer Strictly Come Dancing, which is the British version of Dancing with the Stars.
Okay.
It's the original, and I'll watch some of their choreographers for inspiration and stuff, but I don't watch it too much. It's like, I see it all day.
Yeah.
I breathe it all day, so I don't really want to do it in my spare time.
Ah, gotcha. It's one of those types of things. Yeah, I worked at Dairy Queen when I was 17, and now I can't stand Dairy Queen ice cream because I would have it every day. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine that's sad. You should have not taken that job.
Nope. I really should.
That actually hurt me a little.
So tell me, how did you first get into dance? Like, what kind of, I guess, really kind of lit that fire for that to become your passion, really?
I can't say that fire was ever lit. It's a strange question to answer for me because I'm not somebody that's gonna say, I have always dreamed of being a dancer and I'm just inspired by the music. I was never a dancer. I never had aspirations to be a dancer, yet it was all around me from a really young age. And it was all around me because it was a paint to use to create art, and that's what I always was doing as a child. So I used dance for sure, but it was never my passion or my drive or a fire inside of me. Interesting story about dance. When Thriller came out, you remember the Thriller music video, right? Yeah. So when that came out, I was like 9 years old, and I would recorded it on my VCR and then learned it. And then I taught it to the neighborhood kids and charged all their parents 25 cents to watch us perform it in the street. So I essentially am still doing that today. I'm still choreographing performances and then charging people to watch them. I've just been doing it since I was 9 years old. It wasn't a fire or a something that I was really passionate about, but what I was passionate about was creating, and it allowed me to create something. But acting does that as well, and that was my passion. So that's where I always thought I was going, and dance kind of jumped in front of me in life and said, here's this amazing gift, and it's going to be a gigantic part of who you are and a gigantic part of your career and your path, but it's purely accidental because I certainly was not looking for that, and I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know anything about it. I thought I was auditioning for a show when that's how I got into this business.
Yeah.
And it just kind of snowballed into a gigantic 30-plus year career that I've been doing by accident.
By complete accident.
Yeah.
So within those 30 years, what would you say, I guess, it was maybe the most important thing that you kind of learned about yourself along the way? Or maybe you're still kind of learning about yourself as you've still continued to be doing it.
Well, the way I got into the business is weird because I thought I was answering an audition. There was an ad in the paper said they were looking for dancers, and I thought, I can dance. I'll just try out for this thing. And it was an audition process that went all day. They kept narrowing us down. And then it got to the point to where there was one guy and one girl, and they said, what this is an opportunity. We want to train you to be a professional dancer. We're going to teach you the man's part and the women's part and how to break it down and how to teach it and the philosophies behind them and the benefits behind them. And then you'll have that education to then turn it into this career. And I thought, well, I get to make a living in the arts. I get to be a performer. I get to do shows. I get to do competitions and travel. And It was very appealing to me. So I stepped into it. And what it taught me was that I'm kind of a unique individual, because when I started in the business, it is very sales oriented, and the industry is very sales oriented. And I was trained by the largest franchise in the world, and we not only had dance training, but we had sales training. I trained with Zig Ziglar. Do you know who that is? He's like one of the top sales gurus, teachers in the industry. And we trained with him. Now, the company paid for that to make us the best dance lesson selling robots they could build. And I had a weird mentality to it, to where I thought, God, there's a whole lot of energy being put into trying to talk people into doing something that they called us to do in the first place. And it just didn't make sense to me. I didn't understand why I have to talk somebody into buying lessons. Didn't they want them? I mean, they called me. So I didn't do it the way it was written by them. I did it in my own little black sheep way, and it worked. And within the first year in the industry, I was ranked the #1 instructor in the country with the largest chain in the world. And purely by accident, because I just thought, I'm just going to teach good lessons and fun lessons, and listen and find out who these people are. And if you do that, shouldn't them dancing be a given? Because they understand what it's going to do for them, because I'm going to show them what it's going to do for them.
Yeah.
And because of that, it just worked. And my students bought lessons without asking them to buy lessons. They booked extra lessons in a week because they were having such a good time on the first one. They wanted to do a second one. So my schedule was always full. So I was ranked #1 in their sales reports and their teaching reports. And that was a game changer in my mindset in this industry, because I learned, wow, I made this studio almost $500,000 in dance lesson sales in 1 year, and I made $30,000. So that's when I learned I'm not going to be somebody who does this for somebody else. I'm going to need to be doing this for myself.
You're not going to be the robot.
Yeah, I can't be a robot for someone else's studio. So it taught me that I am somebody who is a little unique. I don't see things the way that normal people see them. I don't have the same, I might be a little more enlightened than the average person. And that is why when I teach, I look at somebody deeper than I'm teaching you a dance step. When it's
Beyond the surface level.
Yeah, and you have to. Like, if I had 20 students standing in front of me, and I have one piece of information I have to give all of them, none of those people are the same. They all have different jobs, different families, different cultures, different lifestyles, different everything. So I have to figure out a way to get that piece of information in all of these different brains and still achieve the same outcome from all of them.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, you have to really be able to look past the surface and see, who are you? How do you think? How do you move? How does your brain work? I need to know all that information.
Do you find it difficult to teach somebody one thing and they're getting it right away, and then it's a little bit little trickier with somebody else? Or do you find it kind of easy to kind of learn as you kind of go with somebody?
You're asking me if I have challenging people?
In the nice way.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not challenging based on ability. It's challenge based on blockage. It's when I can't get somebody to believe in themselves, and I can't get somebody to see beyond their own natural ability to be self-loathing and think that they can't. That's all they think. That's all people walk into this, and they're not capable of seeing a bigger picture because they don't know what it looks like. They don't know what it feels like. They don't know what it's going to feel like to be a good dancer. So it's not something that they can envision. And I have to keep painting that picture for somebody.
Yeah.
who doesn't believe me. And that's where the challenge comes in, because I can't get them to execute something because I can't clear the clouds that are in the way of them actually just doing it. They do 10 other things at the same time that stop that outcome from happening, whether it be no confidence or which can manifest in a billion different ways, like looking at the floor or keeping their shoulders forward or not standing up straight. There's so many things that can stop somebody from doing it, but there's nothing that physically that's stopping anybody from doing it. Anybody can learn it. Anybody can pull it off. If I could actually become a good dancer, anybody can become a good dancer. It's all written there. The information is there. The syllabus is there. The way to teach it is there. But somebody's confidence level, somebody once asked me and you might actually even ask me, what is the hardest thing to teach somebody? And the answer is confidence. That's the hardest thing to teach somebody, because everyone walks in without it. And you have to make it such a safe space for somebody that they start to express themselves and they start to create, and they don't hold back their personality, and they stand different, and there's a different air about them. I see that happen as somebody is progressing in the process.
They kind of got a little bit of strength in their back, a little bit. Their walk is different.
I say a lot that I create animals, especially the men, because they'll get cocky and then they start thinking, wow, I'm really good at this. I know what I'm doing, and I look good when I'm doing it. And there's something about partner dancing that for us is given to us when you become somebody that can do it, that most men didn't have before. And that is that when we're dancing with somebody, we call the shots. We decide what they do, when they do it, how fast they do it. They're completely...
We meaning men or
leaders, whoever's leading in the dance.
Okay.
Makes all the shots. They do everything, and everything rests on their shoulders. And the partner's job is just simply to stay connected, so that as that person moves, they react to those movements. There are a billion things they can do to screw that process up. But in simple terms, their job is just to hang on and don't screw him up. Don't get in his way. You follow his movements. Don't lead. Don't step ahead.
So there is a little bit of give and take, a little bit. Would you say?
Definitely. But usually when a couple decides to start dancing together, the man has no interest in dance whatsoever, because he has got preconceived ideas in his head of what this is going to be. He is emasculated by it. He is, not to get psychological on you, but he is emasculated by the idea of doing it. He doesn't want to look like a fool. He certainly doesn't want to look like a moron in front of me.
Sure.
And there's a lot of fear that's there. But then as they get comfortable and as they start to learn, and honestly, as they realize that it's really all about them, when they come in for the very first session, I'll tell the lady that I'm barely going to notice you're alive on a lesson. Like, I don't need you to do anything. If you get in the way, I will let you know. But everything is about him. He has to learn how to be a strong enough structure that she has something to attach to. And in the beginning, that's just not there. But as they start to get it, they get cocky and they get confident. And then it gets addicting.
Yeah.
Because you just want to keep getting better and learn more. And give me another pattern, give me another step, so I can keep making the dance more elaborate and growing.
So what kind of emotions come over you a little bit whenever you start to realize, I guess just with any of your students, where you finally see that light bulb sort of come on for them? Like, do you just get like this?
It happens a lot.
Satisfaction a little bit, or?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You get super proud. And that is what gives me the pride, honestly, is when I see somebody step out of their comfort zone. That's part of the reason why I do shows. I do shows because I want these people that don't do that in their real life to step out of their comfort zone and go and perform. Go show people what you've learned. Go be proud of what you've accomplished. And if you're not a performer and you're not somebody who's comfortable in front of people, it's a great challenge to have, to try and learn a routine and learn that choreography, and then step out and perform it in front of your friends and your peers. That takes guts.
Gotcha. Do you think it's hard to establish chemistry with somebody you've never worked with before, or is it kind of easier with, like, say it's a couple that comes in? Do you think it's easier for them to have a chemistry because they've already kind of lived together, or even just friends? Like, it's just that connection that they've had together for a long time.
Well, the interesting thing is that you're using the word chemistry, but that can mean a lot of things. So without going into detail as to what chemistry you're talking about, a couple who's married might have the best chemistry in the world, but when they're trying to learn something new that they don't know what they're doing, and they're relying on one another, the potential for them to get annoyed or aggravated with one another is very heightened in that situation. So that's chemistry, but that's not good chemistry. So chemistry is kind of interesting because it's created. It's not something that you force. So if you listen to somebody and you get to know somebody, like I'll use any of my clients as an example. I have clients that have been working with me for 15 years. So I didn't know them on the first lesson. So you learn who they are, you learn what kind of person they are, and you listen when they talk, and you get to know them, and you build chemistry, you build a friendship, you build that connection with them over time. That's not something that it's not something that you just have, and it's not something that you teach. A couple might have really good chemistry, but it's not even something that they're able to use because their brains are so busy trying to focus on learning whatever they're doing in that moment that they're not even aware they have a partner. They will literally do complete routines together, and I am aware that neither one of them knows the other person is alive. They're just so focused on what they're doing. Now, when you see two people dance, like if I was at a dance competition with the client, there are dances we do where we have to come across like we're in love. It's romantic. It's very sensual. And that is chemistry that is faked. That's complete acting. Those are with people that are sisters to me that I've known for a decade. We don't have that type of
Connection, yeah.
right, but we have to create it in the dance. We have to tell a story when we're doing it, and that is a whole nother skill.
It's like acting a little bit,
acting.
where you have to trust the other person to.
Yep, and you got to feel free enough. And because I work with amateurs, that's something that's really hard to get people to do because they're not comfortable, they're not performers, they're not open like that. And that is a strange space to be in. It takes a long time.
So I kind of want to ask you a little bit more about competition dancing and what all that kind of looks like. Like, would you say it's like your typical style of like sporting event, or is it a little bit more Olympic style where there's a panel of judges and they critique and decide what the scores are?
So a ballroom dance competition is an interesting world. It is much like if somebody went to a horse show or I could have come up with a better one than that, but
Dog show
or dog shows or anything that people do as a hobby. It can be a very expensive hobby. That's the best way to sum that up. But dance competitions, because what we do are called pro-am. And a pro-am comp is one amateur dancing with one professional against other amateurs that are dancing with a professional.
Okay.
So the students are competing against one another while they're dancing with us, dancing with their teachers.
Okay.
So,
So it's more or less they're being graded and not you.
yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
They're competing against other women in their age category, their level of dance, all of that kind of stuff. So there's different, and then there on top of that, there are different divisions and different types of entries that they'll dance. We dance some that are full on choreography, and then we dance some that they're called closed entries. And we are only allowed to do syllabus patterns up to their level. If we danced out of box, we would get marked down. So they're looking for specific patterns as you're dancing.
Out of box. What does that mean?
If well, the dances are divided by levels.
Okay.
Much like the Olympics, there's the bronze level, the silver level, the gold level, and then there's gold star and gold bar. And each of those levels is divided into 4 categories. So there's bronze 1, bronze 2, bronze 3, bronze 4, silver 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are levels and syllabus patterns that people are taught. So in the ballroom world, somebody who has been taking lessons, they would know what level they are. Like they would say, I'm a silver level dancer, I'm a gold level dancer, or whatever it may be. And they compete in those particular levels against other people that are also in that same level.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's kind of confusing, but the students are basically competing with one another while dancing with their instructors. So, and I dance with all of them. So I'll have one student that goes to a competition, she'll dance 100 entries. If I take 6 girls, that's 600 entries. And I'm dancing all of them.
Oh man.
So there's a lot of them.
How do you have the cardio and just the endurance to do it?
I probably don't at the moment, but you work towards it. So they train. So they come in. These are clients that take multiple lessons a week to prepare for dance competitions. These are not 1 a week students. The students that do this once a week are my social level clients that are just looking for a fun thing to do together. They don't want to compete or perform.
Like they come in once or twice a week.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
But a competition student is working super hard, especially for 3 or 4 months up to the competition. That's the biggest training period.
Yeah.
And for myself, because I'm training with all of them, which builds the stamina for doing the competition. Not that it's easy by any stretch of the imagination. I did one in 2019 where we did way too many. It was almost 600 entries, and we never should have done that. We compete against other studios as well, and I'm competing against every professional that's there because whoever does the most will get top teacher at a competition.
Really?
And you get a big cash bonus.
Okay.
So you get a check. You can also win top studio, and if you win top studio, you'll get a check. And these competitions are done by a point system. So I'll get 3 points for every first place a student gets. I'll get 2 points for a second place. I'll get 1 point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're totaling points throughout this competition, competing against the other professionals who are also accumulating points with their clients.
Gotcha.
As well. So we were obviously going to win top teacher and top studio, which is what we usually strive for. I've definitely strived for it because it's like a cash bonus at the end of the comp. And I like being number 1. I don't like knowing. So there's that too. Yeah, I hate losing. I don't want to be second. So
Hey, if
we
you're not
danced
first,
a
you're
ton
last.
of entries, and I was first place, and I beat second place by like 400 entries. So it was like we went way overboard. I could have done 400 less entries and still won teacher. I learned a valuable lesson that year. I'm like, I don't need to blow it out of the park that big. I could probably take a step back a little bit.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. So, on camera right here, right now, I'm going to ask you, do you have a favorite student? Oh, do you love them all equally?
No, I love them all differently.
Differently. Okay. Ooh. Okay.
They're all unique individuals. I have different relationships with all of them. I have one that has been with me for almost 16 years. She is like a big sister to me. And I love her very much. But I have a few that have been with me for a really long time that mean a lot to me because they've been around for so long and they're such a big part of my life. I see them more than they probably see their siblings or any other person in their life other than maybe their husbands. Yeah, but these are girls that don't dance with a partner. They dance with me. So they're not a couple. They do this as a single, in which case they dance with me. So they've been dancing with me for a really long time. So we have that relationship. So I wouldn't say I have a favorite one by any stretch, but I definitely have
Yeah.
really strong connections to a lot of them.
To a lot of Gotcha.
Yeah, my students don't leave. They stay forever. We did a dance competition a few years ago in New Orleans when we were interviewed by this a TV show called Dance TV down there. And the guy came up and was interviewing me and two of my girls that were competing at that particular competition. And one had been with me for like 11 years at that point, and one was like 8 years. And in the industry, an instructor is told that a student has a shelf life of about 2 years, that you will get 2 years out of a student, and then their interest will wane and they will probably fall through the cracks.
Is there like an actual statistic that kind of proves that a little bit?
Yeah, believe me, these franchise studios, they keep their records so they can see who bought when, how much they spent, how long they were there, when they started to go away, when they became inactive versus if they are currently active students. They keep track of all of that stuff. Those were the reports that I was at the top of when I was number one with their company.
Whenever you were doing
they knew those statistics. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now I don't keep those statistics because I could care less, and I also don't believe that it's necessary. And I've kind of proven that with my current clients that don't leave. But we were getting interviewed, and the guy goes, how long have you guys been together? And they just went down the line, and she's like, I've been with him for 11 years. And the other one was like, I've been here with him for 8 years. And you can see his jaw pop open in the video. And he's like, why do you stay so long? And they were like, well, you just build a family. And of course they came up with a million jokes afterwards that they wished they would have responded that question away. But they were like, you build a family and, you love each other, and we travel together a lot because these competitions are national. So we'll go spend a week in LA or a week in Miami or wherever. And it was really, really nice. But when the interview was over, he pulled me aside in the hallway and he said, seriously, how do you keep a student for that long? It's unheard of for a student to be with a professional for that long. And I said, I listen to them and I pay attention to them and I make sure that they have good lessons and we have a good relationship and I respect them.
I genuinely care.
Yeah. Genuinely care about them. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
But it's funny, the franchise industry in the ballroom world, I'm already a black sheep, so my opinions won't be that shocking, but they train their instructors with scripts of, you're going to say and do this on a first lesson, you're going to do this on a second lesson, you're going to do this on a third lesson. And
is that kind of going back to like that sales?
Yes. Okay. It is 100% procedure. It is so that by the fourth lesson, you have built enough excitement in that student that you can hit them with an $8,000 dance program.
Because
they'll buy it.
ABC.
Yes.
Yeah. I gotcha.
And the reason that they do that is because they believe that, I remember being told that a monkey could do it if they read the scripts correctly and they do the procedure correctly. Your student should automatically buy if you do that procedure, which of course sets up these teachers to fail. And when they do fail, they feel discouraged and beat up, which was a stupid process to begin with. But they train them in a procedural way. And I have always just thought, well, can't you just ask them why they want to dance and then teach them? And then they'll be getting what they want already. They'll already want to buy lessons. Why are you having to talk somebody into doing something that called you for the information?
Well, and
it just never made sense to me.
Wouldn't that help you as the teacher too, to kind of know what to pinpoint and how to best help them?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It makes the lesson easier to teach. It makes it more fun. When you're personalizing what you're doing, not everybody is capable of doing that. It's not an easy thing. I'm making it sound super easy, but I am rare.
Yeah.
I'm very rare in this industry, which is why I have achieved what I have done. But when you hire instructors off the street and you try and get an average person to do this, that is not an easy thing to do with somebody, because they are intimidated. They feel like they don't know anything. They're not confident enough in themselves to set that aside and make the focus about the person. So there are just so many things that stop somebody from being a good teacher. There are a lot of people that are really good dancers, but they could not teach somebody anything. And then there are other people, I believe, like myself, that are amazing teachers, maybe not the best dancer in the world, but I get by. But there are very few people that can do both at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting world. It's an interesting, eye-opening, as I'm sure any industry is, and anybody in any profession probably has a similar story of how you take whatever you do on a daily basis and you grow and you gain insight and you're able to look at a bigger picture or make it deeper than it probably needs to be. It's just dance. It's not rocket science.
Yeah. I kind of want to go a little bit deeper now and ask you if there's, I guess, like maybe a spiritual connection that you have to dance, or not even dance, but also just creativity in those arts, because you had kind of said that dance had kind of happened by accident, but you've always loved being a creator and just the whole scope of things, what that means. So have you ever, I guess, kind of felt like there's like a little bit of like a spirituality to you with that, or connection in that way?
I would say probably the main way that would apply is the enlightenment that I feel I was given with this lifestyle. It was again not planned, but it has put me in situations where I have traveled all over the country. I have lived in 14 different states, and I have worked with different people from different cultures with different backgrounds at different ages and different mindsets, and I have to be able to pull the same thing off with all of them. So it really forces me to listen to a point that I can take dancing or teaching or whatever I'm doing in that particular moment and elevate somebody, elevate them in a way that they weren't even aware of. So I would say that it probably has given me a deeper understanding of different thought processes, different ways of life, different perceptions, which is huge. You can give the same piece of information and it's heard 10 different ways by 10 different people. So to be somebody that is aware of that information first is definitely a gift that was given to me through this industry. So that is spiritual. Elevation is spiritual. When you're enlightened and can see things that other people might not be capable of, that is pretty powerful. And most people in life go through their entire life only knowing that one station they were placed in, that one job, that one life, that one community, that one education, that one demographic. All of that is what most people experience in life. And I was fortunate enough, because of the dance industry, to be able to travel and to be able to see different ways of life and different thought processes and learn to respect them and learn to not dissect them, and to just be more open, more open-minded, I think, probably. And that was something that came from being in this business. Not necessarily from dance,
Yeah.
but from the industry as a whole.
Gotcha. Do you remember the specific moment that you had that enlightenment?
I think I probably always had it even as a kid, because I was, and not always in a good way, I was a kid that was capable of creating a group, and I was real manipulative. Not in a bad way, but I was definitely always the ringleader. I was always somebody that was the front man. I was always the guide. I was always the go-to. And I think that's just how I'm made up. I am made up to lead. I'm made up to, a lot of people call me a cult leader, and which is really not a compliment, but I see where they're going from it. Sure. And it goes again to my clients that have been around for so long. They're the main ones that call me a cult leader and say that they joined the cult of Darren and now they can't go anywhere. But I'm definitely somebody who likes to rally. If there was going to be a coup, I would be leading it. But it's just the way that it is.
Be leading a coup up on yourself.
So anything. It doesn't, if I see any kind of injustice, I'm like, we can't stand for this. So like that would be me. I would be the person with the bullhorn for sure. And it's the same in business. I have friends that tease me and say that if I had a yard sale, I would turn it into an S corp. I just would. I'm not somebody who sees things like a normal person. So, and I think I've always been that way, but the dance industry really brought it to the front. I mean, I was number one in that industry my first year. I didn't even understand that yet. I had only been in it for a year. So to be number one was certainly not because of education, and it wasn't because I was doing what they were telling me to do.
Okay.
So at that particular moment, I don't think I was even capable of understanding why I was at the top until way later, because I didn't understand the gravity of the difference between what I was doing and what they were pushing people to do. I didn't understand. I just thought, probably arrogantly so, thinking I was good. I was not. What can you do? I'm just good at this.
Yeah.
And there was probably a lot of that in mindset in my 20s. I was definitely a black sheep when it came to that company. Constantly demanding more money, constantly telling them they were underpaying me from like the age of 19. So I'm kind of famous for that in their eyes. It was like, if you keep him happy, he'll be the best instructor you've ever seen. And if he is not happy, you're going to be sorry. That's the truth.
So, because you own a studio, and I'll ask you here in a little bit how that kind of came to be, but since you own a studio and you have been saying that you genuinely care about teaching your students, like this is like, no, I care about you, I care about dance. How do you balance still having to be a businessman because you own a business, but also still own up to I care? Like how do you find that balance?
Oh, I'm the worst businessman in the planet. I don't do what I do for money. So, I mean, I do, but I am not driven by that. I've never been really driven by that. So I give too many discounts. My rates are not as high as they should be. I am definitely somebody who could stand to up the game when it comes to that, although I'm sure all of my clients are screaming, no. But I think in life in general, I don't feel like I need to wear two different hats and be the business owner and then also the friend that cares about his clients. That they're not exclusive. They're the same. My business is successful because I care. My students stay because I care. The students spend money because I care. So in order to, it's probably the best thing I do as a business owner is get emotionally involved in my students. But I'm also somebody who is very blunt, very straightforward. I do not get intimidated by anybody on the planet. So that's a lie. That was a total lie. I could come up with a few probably. But I'm somebody who is very, again, very much a leader. I'm very confident. I'm very in your face. And I demand respect. I won't stand for any type of disrespect in any form, anywhere near me, towards myself or towards anyone in my vicinity. That is just not the type of person that I am. And I think because of that, I'm respected. So my students wouldn't cross that line or take advantage because they know I would not put up with that. I have had not many, but I've had a few people over the course of my career that I've kicked out of my studio, that I've refused to work with, that I've said, I'm not going to teach you anymore because I won't stand for any kind of, I respect other people. I expect the same respect. So I don't feel like I have to wear two different hats. I feel they're definitely the same person either way.
Okay, gotcha. So I want to stick to the theme now of the show, which is changing people's perception, and you were kind of talking about it a little bit. But how would you change people's perception today of dance, and what do you think is a big misconception of dance? Because before the show, I was kind of telling you that me personally, I've always seen the misperception or misconception about dance being, well, why do I need to learn this? What is so important about it?
Well, I don't feel like anybody needs to learn anything. If they didn't want to do it, then they don't have to do it.
Yeah.
It's elective. So that's a question I would ask to them is, why do you want to do this? Which is different for every single person. There are lots of benefits to it, though. So there are lots of reasons why I believe a person should. There was a time in history where ballroom dancing was taught in schools. They taught little boys and little girls how to dance with each other, and they taught little boys how to escort her to the floor and escort her off the floor. It taught manners, it taught grace, it taught posture. There were so many reasons that it was good for people, and then, of course, the arts get cut in schools, so that is long gone, a thing of the past. But there are lots of benefits for adults as well that have not ever done it before. A lot of physical benefits, a lot of mental benefits, confidence benefits. So those are really the reasons that I would answer your question with as to why somebody should do that. There's a billion reasons why you should do it. It makes you just a more well-rounded, respectful person. Fixes your posture, puts all your organs where they're going to be, will train you to stand up straight so your posture will last longer. You won't end up hunched over in your 50s. I can think of a billion reasons why people should ballroom dance.
It's a healthy creative outlet.
Yeah, and ballroom dancing is not like ballet or tap or modern or jazz. It's a specific area of dance, and really the only area I can speak to because I don't do the other forms of dance.
Okay.
So ballroom dancing in particular has, for me, way more benefits that have nothing to do with dance.
Okay.
Dance is just the vehicle that gives you those gifts. Whereas ballet is going to be, if you were talking to a ballet dancer, you would hear things like it is emotional and spiritual and moving, and it is artistic and beautiful and flowy, and they would probably have a much more emotional attachment to their form of dance because their form of dance is theatrical. It is a performance. People don't go social ballet dancing.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So, you know what I mean? Same with really modern or tap or jazz, or they're performative types of dance. So there's a completely different era and mindset to those than ballroom dancing, where somebody is learning how to dance at their daughter's wedding. So it's just a different type of expression. And there are a lot more physical benefits than there are probably with a ballet dancer who's destroying her feet, or any other type of theatrical type of dance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's much more social.
What styles of dance do you know and you typically teach, other than ballroom?
Anything with a partner.
Okay.
So I do all ballroom and Latin, foxtrot, waltz, tango, rumba, cha-cha, swing, mambo, samba, merengue, hustle, Viennese waltz, bolero, quick step.
I know about half of what you're saying.
E-body. Those are all dances, so I do all of them.
Okay. Do you know break dancing at all?
I haven't done breakdancing since 1984.
Oh, okay.
But I did do it then. Somebody just posted a post. It was Jason Crow. He posted a post about the movie Breakin',
Okay.
which you probably have never heard of, but it came out in the early 80s, and then there was Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo, all about breakdancing. They were both blockbuster hits. But I remember being a little kid and doing like backspins and stuff on cardboard boxes.
So then let me
If I don't do it now, I need a medic.
so let me ask you your professional opinion on what was a huge viral moment not too long ago. Paris Olympics had breakdancing,
Oh my God, yes.
and the Australian breakdancer has become viral for how her dance was, to put it nicely, not actually breakdancing. So
I mean, she might have broke some things. I don't know. That was such a weird thing, and I still don't know what to take with her. Like, I'm not sure what her game was. She is a dancer. She has been a dancer for a really long time, and dance is interpretive. And I think that if that is breakdancing to her, it should have been allowed to be breakdancing to her, because that's the whole point of dance, is for her to create something, especially breakdancing. Her moves were very original. And I am going to hope that someday we'll say she was so ahead of her time. Yeah, we just don't know it yet.
we just don't know it. Yeah. Gotcha.
But I don't want to knock her. Like, everybody is entitled to express themselves however they want to express themselves. It was shocking. Like, you watched it and you were like, whoa, I haven't seen that move before. But changed her life.
For positive or for negative, I guess we'll never know.
Guarantee you it changed it for positive. Absolutely, it changed it for positive, and it's probably going to change it in positive ways that she hasn't even thought of yet.
Yeah.
If she's smart. Like, that's a whole lot of publicity and a whole lot of pride.
How do you capitalize on that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So kind of walk me through now how you eventually got to owning your own studio. Because clearly you couldn't go with the formulaic, do A, B, and C syllabus, be a robot. You have this leadership mentality where it sounds like you have to be your own boss. So how did you go from, you said 19 years old at that studio to eventually get to owning your own studio and where it's at today? How did that whole...
I opened my own studio when I was 21. That was my first one.
Okay.
I've owned a couple.
Where was that at?
In Merrimack, New Hampshire.
Okay.
Right outside of Manchester, New Hampshire. And it was also a Darren's Ballroom, and it was there for a few years, and I was young, and it was too much work, and it was too debilitating to me, and I wanted to travel and do other things, which I started to do right after that.
So do you think you just didn't have that type of mentality or immaturity to owning a
I wasn't
studio?
ready to be stuck in the same spot.
Gotcha.
I wasn't ready to marry that just yet.
Gotcha.
And then it became suffocating to me. So I shut that one down and then traveled for a decade And
Were you just kind of nomadic as you were traveling?
no, I worked as a consultant. So I would pick a state. Like I went to San Francisco, and I basically just send my resume to a studio in San Francisco, and they would immediately offer me a job and then pay to move me to San Francisco if I would sign a 1-year contract, and I would train their teachers to do what I do.
Okay, so you were an independent contractor.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And I did that for a long time. And then when my contract was up in that city, I'd pick another state and I'd move to that one and try that one out. And then in 2009, my dad died, and he left me a little bit of money. And I remember sitting on my couch, and I had just moved to Indianapolis, and I was working for a franchise very part-time. And my career was at that point to where I wrote my own rules. And which, shocker, that is how I have to do it. So I was working very limited with this dance studio, and I was in talks to move back to San Francisco to run a studio for Cheryl Burke from Dancing with the Stars. And I took this job at this local studio, and then my dad passed, and I was sitting on the couch, and I said to my mom, I was like, I don't know what to do with this check that I had gotten. And she said, invest it in yourself and open a studio. So I did. I opened Darren's Ballroom, the current one, and a month later got served with an injunction by that franchisee that I was working for, trying to shut me down, saying that I was using... So basically telling me I was using copyrighted materials, stealing his clients. He's claimed he taught me everything I knew in the industry. And luckily, when I first moved to Indianapolis, my group of friends were a bunch of lawyers and judges. So that just happened to be my friend group. A very lucky friend group at that point in time, yes. And of course, they all jumped on that bandwagon right away. And were so nice to help me and didn't even charge me, just fought my battle for me. And we ended up going to court with this dude. And this is the first year of me being in business. I had invested everything my dad had left me. And the judge looked at him and said, how long have you been in this industry? And he said, 11 years. And then he looked at me and said, how long have you been in this industry? And I was like, 22 years. So then he looked at the dude and goes, how did you teach him everything he knows if he's been doing this longer than you have? So he striked that out. And then he went to the next thing and said, it says that you're using copyrighted materials and you're using, it was their proprietary syllabus patterns. And every studio has one. So the Arthur Murray organization has one, the Fred Astaire organization has one, the Tom Chapman organization. Those are all the three biggest franchises. And then there's the independent world where I live.
Okay.
And they're the big sharks. And said that I was using their copyrighted materials. So the judge said, are you using their syllabuses? And I said, well, I've been doing this so long. I know the Arthur Murray syllabus. I know the Fred Astaire syllabus. I know the Tom Chapman syllabus. I know the DeVita syllabus, the Dance Council of America syllabus. I can recite all of them to you. And then I said, but here are the ones that I'm using. And I showed them the copies of the syllabuses that I was using, which is called DeVita, and it's public. Anybody can use it. And so he scratched that out.
So it wasn't like they had a franchise tag on something specific? No. Okay.
No, and it's all public knowledge anyways. And if I teach for an organization, I use their syllabus. But then if I go teach for a different organization, I'm going to use their syllabus. So I know all of them. I've been doing it long enough that I've at one time or another used all of them.
Gotcha.
So it's not something where I even need a syllabus. It's in my head now, but I was using publicly used syllabuses. So then he gets to the last thing on the lawsuit, and it says that I have to stay outside of a 25-mile radius of his studio for 2 years after I end my employment with his company. and because I was on a non-compete. So he goes, the judge looked at me, and at this point he had caught this guy lying multiple times, so he wasn't a fan of him anyways. He was very much a fan of myself and my lawyers, and he said, please tell me why I don't have to uphold that part of the contract. So we went into recess, and that night I was driving home from the studio and I saw another ballroom studio. I passed it on the way home. And I thought, I wonder how many there are in between him and me. How many ballroom studios fall between us? And there were 8. And I sent an email to my lawyer and I said, hey, I don't know if this would work, but there are 8 studios in between us. I'm obviously not direct competition of this guy. So he said, well, we'll try it and see what happens. So he submitted that to the court, and then the judge dismissed the whole case, and he lost. And
So it wasn't something that, or it was something that can be used in court of law.
what, his contract?
No, the information that you had gathered of those locations.
Yeah. Not only could it be used, the judge agreed that that's enough reason for me to just dismiss his whole case. He doesn't have a case against you at all.
Gotcha.
So he ended up losing the case. I don't know for sure, but he had claimed that he had spent $300,000 in legal fees to try and put me out of business. But what ended up happening is that he went out of business and they no longer exist. And it's sad because that studio had been there since the 80s. But he thought I inherited millions apparently and wanted a piece of my dad's inheritance. And that's why he ended up suing me. But I've been there now this is my 16th year. And that poor studio doesn't exist anymore.
So whenever you had that check in front of you, was there, I guess, any sort of maybe hesitation? Like your mom, like you said, your mom had told you open up your studio. Like, were you at all hesitant to be like, well, maybe I don't? Like,
We were in the middle of a recession. It was 2009, so it was a really crazy thing to do, especially since I didn't have any clients local. I didn't know anybody in Indiana. I didn't even know anybody in the dance industry in Indiana because my career never landed here. So no, I didn't have any fear or hesitation because I had been doing it for so long. I knew that was probably the smartest thing for me to do with it. There were many times that I went to the studio and just sat there all day and waited for the phone to ring because I had no clients. And that was the other thing, that other studio had claimed I was stealing their clients, and I literally didn't have any clients. So, and I'm also not somebody, I'm not a thief. So I'm not somebody that would have done any of the things he claimed in the first place.
Sure.
He was just trying to shut me down to be hateful. But I sat there all day waiting for the phone to ring, and then one by one, I built clientele, and it's just stayed since then, luckily. Knock on wood.
Yeah. So let's kind of get into a little bit more of the other creative stuff that you kind of get into a little bit, more specifically film. That's how you and I have really kind of connected is through film. So, oh gosh, what's it been now? Like a year or two now?
Since when?
Since we were in Ohio together shooting a little indie film. It's called, I don't know, The Green Woods or something like that, or no.
Yes.
Emerald Forest.
Yes.
So kind of walk me through that process, how you got there.
Emerald Forest is my nemesis. It is, I have a very different relationship with it than everybody else does. I've always been somebody who has prided myself on not using my mouth to write checks that I couldn't cash. So this, I don't know how it ended up happening. It was a complete accident. It was totally fated because so the way that the whole thing started was I am a huge Nightmare on Elm Street fan, huge. And I got a chance to do a movie with 3 former Nightmare on Elm Street stars, and I thought, coolest thing on the planet that I get to be in a movie with these three people that I grew up watching their movies over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I do this movie, and one night I'm sitting out on the front porch with Lisa Wilcox from Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5, and I was just asking her acting questions, honestly. And I said, as an actress, if there was a type of role that you've never played, but you know that if you got the opportunity to play it, you would just kill it, and it would be amazing, and it would just change people's perception of you.
Yeah.
And she described this character in Emerald Forest. So while we were talking, I said, I have this idea for this movie. And I just started talking about it, and the story just started coming together. And the more I talked, the more she got excited, and the more her eyes glistened, and the more she got involved, and my cult leader persona took over, and I just kept delivering. And before I know it, she said, I am in. I want to do this film.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, I can make a movie and put Lisa Wilcox in it. And then Mark Patton came out and joined and said, and also joined in on I want to be in it. And then Danny Hassel said, I want to be in it. And I was talking to another friend, and that friend said, I know an investor. He's never given me any money, but I'll give you his phone number if you want to call him.
Uh-huh.
So here I am somewhere in the middle of Tennessee in the mountains on the side of a cliff shooting this film. And I'm walking up and down the side of this mountain trying to get cell phone service. And I call this dude who I didn't know and pitched this movie to him. And I had also already spoke to Felissa Rose, and she was on board too, because I called her, also never having spoken to her in my entire life. And the guy goes, wow, this sounds exciting. I'm in for $100,000 so far. And my knees buckled out from underneath me. And I said,
just like that?
Yeah, I was like, I was just starting to build up enough courage to ask him for $25,000. That's what I was going to do. And before I could even ask him, he said, I'm in for $100,000 so far.
And then fireworks just start shooting off.
Fear. It was so, my knees buckled, and my first thought in my head was, oh crap, now you really have to do this. Like you're going to make this movie. You have to do this. And it changed the course of the fluff I had been serving. I don't know what. I talk like a trucker, so that you don't know how hard this is for me to not use my first choice of word. But I thought, wow, I've really got to make this movie now. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And it became, that investor, by the way, backed out later, so never actually put in any money whatsoever. But he lit that flame to where I kept going forward from that point forward, and it got to a point where it was very, very overwhelming. And I started getting depressed about it, and I started to not feel good about the entire process. And I'm not somebody who likes to feel like that. I'm somebody who can change that and turn that around really in my life.
What was giving you grief?
It's expensive, and that's a lot of money. And more importantly than that, I'm somebody who, I don't want to let anybody down, and I don't want to take someone's money and not be able to say, look what we've done with it. Look what you got out of it. I want a benefit for them. Otherwise, I would feel horrendous.
You felt pressure.
I felt pressure, too much pressure. And I was talking with Kelly, who was the AD on when we shot the proof of concept. And she said, let's just shoot it in pieces, or let's shoot a piece of it. Let's not try and bite off the whole film. Let's shoot the first 16 pages, and we'll use that to try and raise the money.
So did you have a script already done?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole script was done before we shot the proof of concept.
Okay.
So we started then looking at just the first 16 pages, which when you think of The Wizard of Oz, it's everything up to the tornado, and then you end up in Oz beyond that point. So we shot everything up to the tornado. I felt pressure. I felt horrible. was interestingly not excited at all. I felt nothing but dread on my way to Ohio. There were quite a few things that had fallen apart in the process of filming the proof of concept, which just were more pressure and more stress and more expensive than anticipated. So I arrive and it just started happening. The movie just started getting made, and I was able to stand back and watch all of these amazing magicians step into their roles where everybody was the most comfortable. And I watched magic. It was unlike any filming experience I've ever had before.
Sort of like an out-of-body experience?
Well, I was acting in it too, and producer, so I was really focused on being Ben in those moments. But the producer side of me was almost out of body because I was so appreciative. There's a scene in it where I'm standing at the casket and I'm crying, and I'm slowly approaching the casket and I cry on that casket. That every tear in that one scene is real. Like, that was not acting. That was real. For some reason, it was the last thing was shot. And when I was standing there looking at the casket and the picture of me and Felissa off to the side, and I can hear Nolan and RJ, the director and the cinematographer, in the background, painting ideas out loud. And I got extremely overwhelmed because of what everyone had just accomplished for me. And I broke down in this hysterical crying, and there are like tears pouring out of my eyes. And even while that was happening, and I knew why I was crying, and I felt such gratitude in that moment, I was still aware of like, oh man, this is gold. This is gonna look so good on camera.
Yeah.
So I was aware of all of that simultaneously. It was a very strange, out of body experiences, and that is what it looks like on camera. It looks like an out of body experience, and that is exactly how it felt in that particular moment. But that wouldn't have happened had I not shot that. I would never have built the relationships that I have. When I showed up, I didn't even know Felissa Rose at all. In fact, I thought she wasn't even interested in really being in this. I thought she didn't care at all. She showed no interest whatsoever. I tease her all the time because I texted her one day and I sent her a picture of the dress that we had made for her, like one of a kind. I sent her this dress and I was like, hey, look at this dress that you're going to wear in the movie. And she responded and just said, nice. And I thought, this girl doesn't care at all. She's not even interested in being in this. But then when I met her face to face, and she's such a kindred spirit to me, and we immediately fell in love with each other, which also shows up in that proof of concept. Our connection is definitely visible on screen. But it was real. And then now we joke all the time about how when I first interacted with her, I was so convinced that she was just so standoffish and just not interested in being in Emerald Forest at all. And she's not. She is magical and an amazing person, but I didn't even know I was going to like her. Like, I don't know what to think about this girl. She could have gotten a little bit excited. But I tease her about it all the time. But everybody during the filming of that proof of concept changed the process for me, because then I thought, oh, this doesn't have anything to do with me. So it really took all of the pressure off of me, because I realized this isn't about me. This is about all of these people right now that are making this magical piece of art together that have nothing to do with me. So it made me feel relaxed, because I knew that now I have people that are attached, that are emotionally invested in this project, and it means a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's just been life-changing. But still, way too much pressure. If you're ever thinking about doing a movie, do not do it. Turn around and run the other direction. It is not the easiest thing to do.
No,
And I'm an actor, so I don't know what I was thinking. I shouldn't have even come up with this idea. Someone should have slapped me as soon as I said it. I would if I could go back in time.
yeah.
But it has gotten me a lot of amazing relationships and allowed a lot of things to happen. And now Doug Jones is going to be in it. And there've just been so many things that have happened since this started, but it's a slow process. It is taking forever. I was talking with one of the actors who was kicking me in the butt and saying, "You're waiting too long. You got to get back on this. You can't keep pushing it off." Mind you, I'm running a business and I'm also still acting and doing all those other things too. But anyway, she kicked me in the butt. And I was talking with Felissa one day and she said, she named a movie that she is producing. And she said, "I've been talking about this movie for 10 years and it is still gonna happen."
Yeah.
But sometimes things take time because there are other projects. There's other things that are coming together. But we're getting back on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Where are you at in that process then?
Our crowdfunding campaign should start in February,
Okay.
and we are going to shoot it in pieces. So
Okay.
I just saw another person shoot a film, and it has taken them 14 months to shoot it. And they shoot it in small increments, and because of that, they were able to pull off a $500,000 budget. So
Okay.
we need that
Because they did it sporadically.
because they did it in pieces, and they did it with multiple crowdfunding campaigns. So they would run a crowdfunding campaign that would raise $100,000 5 times rather than trying to raise all of that money at once and shoot the entire picture in one swoop.
Gotcha.
I'm sure that it is not the cheap. It's a little more expensive to do it that way because you've got to keep bringing people out. But
Yeah.
I think it by lump locations together and cast together that I could do this in pieces where we will shoot things that can all be done. Like we'll do all of our soundstage stuff at the same time so that we can get everything done inside the soundstage. We'll shoot all of our exteriors in another time to where we can do that. So there are ways to do it for sure. And if it allows me to get a bigger budget over a longer period of time, then I'm willing to do that because I don't want to cheapen out the movie. And it's a fantasy film. That's the other thing too. Why did I do that? Why did I think a fantasy film was going to be a good idea?
be
Let's
easy.
make a fantasy film and tie it to The Wizard of Oz. What a great idea, Darren.
Yeah. An already claimed IP.
The most expensive genre to film in the first place and then tie it to one of the largest
Yeah.
franchises ever. Sure.
Yeah.
Such a good idea. I never do anything small though, so I'm not surprised. And I'm also 100% convinced it will happen. And I'm also 100% convinced it will be successful. But God, it's a long process and it takes a long time. And
Yeah.
there are way too many moments of pressure that I do not find fun at all. So the Emerald Forest will be my one-time step into producing
Producing film.
Yeah. I don't ever want to do it again.
Yeah. Well, hey, as long as I keep my role, we're good. We're solid. So we're gonna wrap up here. But I'm gonna ask you one last question. Just for 2025, and I guess really for the future, what are your goals that you really want to try to hopefully achieve, and how do you expect to go about them?
I have 2025 is really crappy so far, so let's hope that it starts to turn itself around. But
Yeah.
I do have some amazing projects lined up in 2025 that are some of the biggest stuff I've ever done. So I'm really excited to shoot that. I have 2 series that I'm shooting this year. One that's shooting in Montana, which is a state I've never even been to, so I get to do that too. And then I have one that I leave next week to shoot in Boston. and both with big companies with big people attached. So I'm super excited to work with them. I have a dance competition at the end of the year. We'll do the Hollywood Dance Sport Championships in October. I have one show that I need to produce for my studio this year, which is usually has like 200 people in attendance, like putting on a wedding. And then also raising the money to do at least the first filming section of Emerald Forest.
Okay.
And depending on what's raised through the crowdfunding will depend on how much we can actually get done. But
Gotcha.
definitely something will be filmed for Oz. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, go ahead and take a look in that camera right there and tell people where to find you.
You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook at Darren Lee Cupp. And I have a website, darrenleecupp.com. And all the juicy information will be there.
Great. Juicy. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I talk your ear off.
Yeah, that's part of it. So, but I'm glad you were here, and I'm glad we could have a deep conversation about this.
Yeah, me too.
It was awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah. If you like today's episode, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'm your host, Thomas Casey Zellers. I'll see you in the next episode.